Hello, Andreas here from the audio tutorials. I found on the web a very awesome plugin and I thought I would like to show you this plugin instead of making just an ordinary tutorial. And this time I have to give away some free licenses for this thing, so you might be interested in seeing this video anyway. So here's this plugin. It is from Audio Damage, and I really can recommend most of their plugins because they are really that great. And well, I was interested in Automaton, so I got a copy, and here is my plain without plugin audio. And with Automaton on, it sounds like this. And you know, I'm interested in this kind of glitch thing anyway, so Automaton is really awesome, and I'll show you how this thing works right now. So as you've just seen in Automaton, it's everything about these colored dots. Now what these colored dots do, I'll explain in this part. So here you can set a so-called rule set. In my case, this rule set is sequencer. There are other ones which I will show you later. To make a dot, you simply click in the cellular sequencer, and the thing is, when I press play now, you see that this dot is moving. Now I won't go into detail why it's moving, it's just important that it's moving. So when we want to go into stutter mode, or we want Automaton to go into stutter mode, we go into stutter and then just make blue dots somewhere in the sequencer. And whenever this white dot now comes across a blue dot, it goes into stutter mode. And that way we can automatically, let me choose the big crusher, we can automatically go into each of those effects by simply making the dots. As you can see in this example, I've created a 16 dot chain of stutter effects, and when I press play now, you will hear that Automaton, every time that white dot comes across a blue dot, goes into this stutter effect. So in this part I want to show you, or I want to explain how the basic functionality of Automaton is, because every module here has basically the same knobs and same sliders. So you got this knob, for example, which determines the rate in this example, and you got a question mark here which determines some kind of randomness, and this P here I will explain later. So let's go back to the stutter mode, and when I press play now and modulate the repeats length, you will hear the difference. So as you've just heard, whenever Automaton comes across a blue dot, it repeats this blue dot 32 times in this example. When I slide, or when I set the random value here, what the question mark stands for, we will hear a random change in the repeats length. So that way we can have kind of a randomness going on, which is sounding quite nice in most cases. The pitch here determines that each repetition should be pitched upwards by 4 semitones. So this way we can have some kind of pitch change going on as well, which is quite cool in my opinion. And the cool thing is, every module here has basically the same buttons and the same sliders. So you have always the big knob, which determines the value itself, and you got the randomness, and you got this P, which I will explain right now. You might wonder what the P means. The P means population. Population is the following. When I go to sequence, or when I switch to sequence, you see this white dot here. When I click here and drag downwards, you see I can create this kind of bar thing now, which when I press play will move this bar from the left to the right in 16th notes. So now we have this kind of bar here, and when I switch to Stutter again, you see this P value here right beside the repeats and the length value. When I create now a pattern, which in this case says linear, you see that I got this upwards change going on here, and each 16th note has one dot more than the other one, and this way we can have this length value changing automatically. The P means always it adds its value to the set value here in the knob. That means you can have the modulate amount of the frequency modulation changing automatically or set by yourself, which is kind of very cool, because you get not this kind of static noise, but you get a more modulated noise, which sounds quite nice in my opinion. Now I should show you the other modes, which are modulate, big crush and replicate. Therefore I've created some presets here. You see I've chosen to stick with my preset, which is this kind of upwards going triangle thing here, and I've used the parameter P in every of my presets to show you how this thing is working. So a modulate is basically just a frequency modulator. The big crusher is very cool, and I could recommend this button here, which is error. It says error, and it's absolutely awesome in my opinion. I've used the population parameter to automate the bitrate. And last but not least, the replicate thing is basically a beat repeat kind of thing, and just quickly choose to ignore the trigger. Here you heard the strength of Automaton, which is basically to trash audio as best as you can. You might wonder why there is stutter and replicate. The difference between those is stutter silences audio, whereas replicate replicates audio, so it really makes sense that these two modes are here. So last but not least, I will explain the sequence. In the sequence you see that the white dots are in the foreground, and here you see a knob called lifespan. This means that each white dot is a 1/8 note. And you have to keep in mind that this lifespan now means that we are moving every 1/8 note to the next grip point. And this is also important because this means that every 1/8 note